Hello, my name is Anton. Welcome back to Echo Aircraft. Now this is the second video on the channel in a row of me building anything but planes. And this time I decided to build a sailboat. Personally, I got no experience with sailing and I was never really into boats, but I just thought it would be a pretty fun project because I kind of wanted to uncover the mysteries of how sailing actually works. I don't have any experience with shipbuilding, so I kind of had to learn it all from scratch. So let's see how it went. Alright, let's hop into CAD and begin building. As the main inspiration for the design, I decided to make a semi-replica of the Dufour 530 sailboat. I chose a sailboat for some personal reasons, but also because it just looks really modern and cool, and it's also pretty wide, so it should be pretty stable in some high winds. Overall, I could not find many technical drawings to go off of, but I found some sketches that could be used to trace out the general shapes. I designed this simple model in CAD that was mostly going to be used to actually design the 3D printed pieces, but the main hull will be made by hand out of some insulation foam, so I'm not taking that into account. However, it is important to maintain all the correct proportions and sizes so that all the parts can fit together nicely. So I cut out some templates out of paper of the shape of the boat and began cutting it out of some insulation foam. After I cut out all the pieces, I used the table to give them the correct curvature. Then it was just a matter of sticking everything on tight and making sure everything fits, and taping it together for the time being. And now I'll let Gorilla Glue dry for about 5 hours. Meanwhile, I have some parts printing on my new Ender 3 SE. Now that the hull is all glued up, I can now use a blade of a knife to round off the edges and give it a nice shape. Then go at it with some sandpaper to give it the final curvature. The hull is now ready to be coated. I am using water-based min-wax polyacrylic as it is safe on foam, non-toxic, and pretty cheap too. I'm applying a liberal layer of that polyacrylic stuff onto the foam in hopes to create the first layer. Now to hide the imperfections, I'm using a paper mache technique of just putting paper down and soaking it with polyacrylic. I wouldn't say it was very easy to work with, and I would probably rather use epoxy resin or some kind of Elmer's glue to put all the paper down. But anyways, after smoothing out the pieces, I was achieving some pretty good looking results. I have to say, paper macheing with polyacrylic is not a very good experience, and it does not look as good as I thought it would. But I think with some more layers of polyacrylic, it should start looking a bit better. Fortunately, I only have to do it once. After 2 more layers of polyacrylic, this is what the hull looks like now. And you can see it has this kind of hard shell, is what I was trying to aim for. Honestly, I don't even know how many layers of polyacrylic I put on that thing. But you know what, I'm trying to make it durable and waterproof, so I'll spare no expense. In the meantime, I cut out this piece that's going to make the top deck and the main cabin. Look at how nicely it fit together. Now I'm just layering it using some foam board and shaping off the front to form this canopy look. Measuring out the hole for the mast to go into. Here I inserted the mast mount and drilling it out. And same here, I am measuring out where the mast is going to go. It is very important to maintain high precision to ensure that both mounts are in line. Similarly to a spar in a plane, the mast makes up the main structure of any sailboat, at least that I know of. For the mast, I'm using a carbon fiber rod made out of an arrow. It has a 3D printed keel in which it inserts nicely, and then everything goes on like a kebab. And now we can finally see what the sailboat is turning out to look like. Nice. Alright, so here's what the sailboat is turning out to look like. I wouldn't say it's very big. I really like the size, but I think it looks really good so far. Here's me for comparison. I printed this 3-bladed propeller that I found on Thingiverse, and I'm going to be using a tube of an old gel pen as a grease tube. As you can see, the motor shaft is rotating freely inside the tube, but now I have to fill it with some grease. I have to say, putting in all that grease into a small tube was a pretty challenging task. I used some bicycle grease that I had laying around and it worked pretty well. But what is a grease tube? Well, it is a very important piece of a ship. It prevents the water from seeping in through the motor shaft, so it keeps the inside dry while transmitting the rotation to the outside. The grease helps prevent the water from getting in. Installing the grease tube was a pretty challenging task as well, because I had to make sure that it sits straight and also that it's pretty shallow so that the motor can actually get to it. By using some old pen cartridges and also some heat shrink, I was able to make this flexible coupling that allows the shaft to be a bit offset from the center of the motor. Now I'm going to work on the rudder. I am installing this rudder assembly that fits nicely into the back of the boat, and by using some baking soda and CA glue, I am able to secure this rudder to the shaft. And so now the rudder is in. It's pretty large to combat all the forces acting on the boat. I didn't bother designing a push horn for the shaft, so I decided to use an old servo push horn with some CA glue. And with the servo installed, we now have a working rudder. I also just realized that I'm using a water-based coating in a thing that's going to be going on the water. So to prevent that from breaking up, I used some clear coat in a can. After connecting the motor to a small 20 amp brushed ESC, we now have power and control. I'm adding this metal gear servo to the top to control the boom on the mainsail. That way we can adjust the angle and catch some wind. Now I glued on the top piece and taped it together just for the time being until the glue sets. I have to say, yeah, you know what? Why don't we just make the deck out of some popsicle sticks? Oh yeah, baby! Now it's starting to look like a real sailboat. Of course, gotta cut off the rough edges. This is what the boat looks like now. I think it looks just amazing. But I decided to go a bit further and give it some wear and tear. So I'm gonna give it some black stain. Now, by the old tradition, everything has to be covered in polyacrylic. Better yet, in several layers, of course. And I also decided to paint the top deck fully white to mask up any kind of imperfections that I might have painted on there by accident, and also just to give it a nicer, more uniform color. By that point, I had no idea what I wanted to use for the sail, but then we found this really old and kind of torn up Ukrainian flag that we had. It was outside of our house for a long time, and I think instead of throwing it out or burning it, it would be a much cooler idea to make it into a sail. After all, every flag wishes to become a sail. Slava Ukraini! I am cutting out the mainsail out of the yellow part and the jib out of the blue part. This fabric is very light, not necessarily ripstop nylon, but it will do. And now personally my most anticipated part, putting on the sails. I used some 3D printed tabs to make the hinge for the mainsail, and I'm just securing the jib with some line. That way it is free to go wherever it wants. I've painted on some windows and other small details, so that way it looks a bit more scale. I think it's turning out looking really good. Alright, now all controls are hooked up and we're ready to do the test. I have my throttle on my throttle channel with a reverse switch, I have my rudder on my aileron channel, and I have my mainsail on my rudder. By moving the mainsail, I am able to change how much wind I will be catching, and that way it also helps me maneuver the boat too. I am using two old steel chisels that I found from my neighbor. I'm securing them using zip ties to the 3D printed keel. That way the boat can stay stable and resist the wind. And of course, cannot forget to add some 3D printed helms. Aren't they so cute? First maiden voyage off the boat. There's a goose right there that might attack me. Have the sail working. Come on. Oh yeah, look at that. It's going now. Oh, that's so cool. Look at it. Now let's see if we can sail some. Oh yeah, look at that. on, dude. And this is me going with no power. Oh wow, look at that. Oh, it's sailing, dude. I'm sailing. Yeah, look at that. Oh, it's sailing. Oh, dude, I'm sailing. Look at that. Oh, no. Oh, it's about to flip over, is it? Watch out. Come on, dude. Come on. Yeah, okay. Ooh, it's just like that. The whole damn construction crew just came out here to play with a toy sailboat, dude. Well, I had a fear that this motor might be a bit too small for the sailboat, but that just happened. It got so hot that it melted the cap of the motor off. So, I mounted the motor inside the boat, and I printed a new propeller, which is slightly larger and has 2 blades now. This thing is scary fast. Oh, this is gonna be a speedboat. Yeah, that motor ended up burning up my ESC, so I had to replace it with a slightly less powerful one. Alright, so I installed a new motor on this thing, not as powerful, not as crazy. So the sail is working, rudder's working, my power is working too. We are at Jordan Lake right now, it's a nice breeze, it's a nice day. We're gonna test it out in some big water now. Alright, and it's working pretty well so far, I gotta say. I'm gonna try and turn around and see if I can catch some wind there. So right now there's no power. I'm just using... Yeah, look, I'm just sailing now. I'm using 0 throttle and it's kind of slowly sailing along. And this is sailing with no power now again. Yeah, so it's just moving along. Like, I'm actually surprised that it's kind of... Alright guys, I'm hoping you liked this video. Like I said, I had no experience building sailboats prior to that, and I think it turned out pretty good. If you have any more suggestions, you can leave them for me in the comments, but I'm probably just gonna keep the sailboat as it is. Just take it out to the lake every once in a while. It is way slower than any other off-the-shelf sailboats you might find, but that was not really the point. I just wanted to drive something in water using nothing but wind power, and I think it succeeded pretty well. Going forward, I have some cool aircraft projects in mind, so stay tuned, and I'm hoping that this channel does not turn into a boat channel. So, if you like this video, consider subscribing and leaving a like too. That helps a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.